Alright, welcome back. This is a review for Fruits Basket 2019, episode 5. So this episode, obviously it continued kind of where it left off from the previous episode where, Tohru got a call from her grandfather saying that the renovations were done. And so we get a continuation off of that and the whole, because we're going to have to deal with this eventually because I know this, but that the whole fact of, Tohru's grandfather's renovations were going to be done at some point, so she needed to at least go back there and address this issue, which is one of the actually good things I like that Fruits Basket brings up and handles early on, so it's not like it's something that happens later on or they forget about. So this is mainly dealing with Tohru and kind of letting her be a little bit more selfish in a sense, not in a sense, but really is. And letting her learn that she can be a little bit more selfish, that she can ask for things that she wants, that she can do these things, and that she doesn't need to feel ashamed or about it. For the most part, the episode plays out pretty much how it is in the manga and whatnot. And I know that I was curious how it was going to play out, whether it was going to be a full episode or whether it was going to be, if they were going to do it half episode to it, and the next episode would be the other half. But no, it was a full episode, which I'm happy about because this chapter in particular deserves its own episode. And they pretty much compared this episode compared to the other one. They pretty much play out the same, with the exception of that they kind of have a little bit different fillers in a sense. And for the most part, there really isn't a lot of filler to this episode. It's just kind of, a little bit. So, one of the things I was really surprised that they added, so I'll start off kind of close to the beginning, was that little scene between Tohru and Kyoko. Because that wasn't even in the manga, but I like that because as you'll find out later more with Tohru as the series goes on, it kind of felt like, to me anyway, that was kind of a semblance of, she's basically having to leave this little home that she had built for herself, and she feels like it'd be selfish to ask to see if she could stay, and so it feels like she's about to lose her home once again. That's how I kind of feel about that little scene they added with her and Kyoko. A little backlash. But I feel like that it's important, at least for later on, for understanding Tohru's character. And then, of course, obviously with this episode itself. And then, pretty much, for the most part, there really isn't too much difference. I mean, there is, but there isn't. Another thing, I think that the original series had this, kind of try to play it off a little bit more comedic, not in Tohru going home, but with the interactions between Yuki, Kyo, and Shigure when they were by themselves, because in both series, after Tohru kind of gets up and leaves, Shigure says, I thought you were going to try to stop her, saying that to Kyo and Yuki. Yuki saying that, we knew this was going to happen, and Kyo being, she shouldn't really have been here to begin with. And in the original series, what they did is they had a whole bunch of, more comedic scenes with, Shigure, he finds, he's like, I found her hand towel, and all I have to do is just bring it up to my face and smell it, and, now I can remember Tohru again, and then he gets smacked, which kind of ruins one of the gags, or one of the little jokes that happens way later on in the series. That's like, yeah, I don't know how that ever happened either. So they try to make, I feel like the original tried to make it a little bit, some scenes, they tried to add a little bit more comedy in there. But I do like how, because also in the original, pretty much it happens the same way, with the exception of there was a scene with Tohru putting up trying to help her aunt cook, and she's looking for a dish, and her aunt's like, actually the dish is over here in this area, not in the area that you're looking at, and Tohru's like, oh, okay, and she's like, oh, well, yeah, because the area that Tohru was looking in was where the dishes would have been at the Soma's place, and she's like, oh, okay, yeah, I just need to get readjusted. It's kind of a bit weird. But it pretty much plays out the same, and then one of the things I really like about this episode is that you actually get to see Yuki and Kyo actually trying to look for Tohru. It's not just like, because in the manga it was you just see Yuki at his garden and Kyo on the rooftop, and then they appear after she says, "Oh, I want to go home." And in the original anime they kind of show up a little bit more, but then pretty much but then they kind of don't show up after a little bit, and then she does "I want to go home" thing, and then they show up again. And there's a little one-off scene where it's like, oh, where Tohru goes, oh, they must have been, they came to find me despite, fighting with each other. And she's this little 2-second scene where you see Kyo and Yuki kind of fighting with each other while trying to figure out which way to go. But this one I actually like that you actually get to see it, and you actually get to hear exactly what they overhear. In what her I guess her cousin says to her, what her grandfather says and everything. So it's not just like they come in and like they just hear, "Oh, I want to go home" or anything like that. It's so they actually hear the entirety of the conversation, just about a good chunk of the entirety of the conversation, starting from what the cousin says to her. But I really liked it. It's very sweet. I like, another thing I like, and it's something that you don't really notice, because this is another difference, is that in the original they tried to make Shigure more comedic in this sense, and try to kind of like, hints that I told you about the hand towel thing, try to be like he's trying to force them and try to like egg them on to go get her back. But in this one, and this actually is more accurate to what Shigure's behavior is more like, where he just leaves the memo that Tohru left with her grandfather's dress on the table. He doesn't say anything about it. He just kind of leaves her and lets them stew in their own loneliness, their own anger. I don't know, their anger, loneliness, whatever you want to go with. He lets them stew in that, and then allows them to pretty much decide to go and do it themselves instead of trying to force them to do it. And then of course you get the comedic scene at the end with Shigure being like, "Aha, you rescued the princess," and that actually is manga accurate. But I really enjoyed this episode. I thought it's done really well. It's quite adorable. You get to see, and you got to see it last time with in the first series too. But you get to see I think this is the first glimpse you get to see of at least a more colored glimpse of Katsuya, which is Toru's dad. So it's nice. I enjoyed it. Good episode. I'm actually really curious about the next episode. Is going to be really interesting because I'm curious if they're going to split it into 2 episodes, or because we've already introduced the concept of the cultural festival in the next episode, and that was in chapter 8, and we've animated all but the last like 2 or 3 pages of chapter 8, and the next episode is going to be covering chapter 7. So I'm curious if they're going to be half the episode is going to be chapter 7, and the other half is going to be chapter 9 with a little bit of that ending portion of chapter 8 put in the middle, or if it's just going to be purely chapter 7 with a little bit of filler, because the original episode for the next chapter, in the original series, the next episode had a lot of filler in it, and then also took out some important scenes as well. So I'm curious to how they're going to do it. It's going to be interesting. But it will give you for all of you people who they didn't read the manga, but you did watch the original series, you will be getting you should be most definitely getting new content next episode that you definitely did not get to see in the previous series. So, yes, that's, I'm excited. I'm super happy. Okay. But other than that, I mean, it's a great episode. Can't wait till next week. So, thanks for watching, and bye for now.